custody exchange turned into a double unaliving here in my town a couple days ago. A 5-year-old boy had to watch his father unalive his mother and grandmother.
Yes, sir. Tell me exactly what happened.
I was in fear of my life. I fired one round.
But he tells dispatch she fired first. Now keep in mind, this does not match the narrative from Richmond County deputies.
We got here because of the failings of the justice system.
I just watched a video talking about the statistics of how many children end up with an abusive parent in custody cases, and it made me realize that my custody case really was an absolute anomaly.
That is how it should be done. That is what should have happened in this case. If that happened, Melissa and her mother Elizabeth would still be here.
72% of abusive fathers who seek custody are awarded custody. The statistics are heavily in the favor of abusive fathers.
This is a trigger warning. I feel like I say trigger warning too many times, but it is a trigger warning. The story is very upsetting, very disturbing, very sad, frustrating, all of the things. And that's the reason why I'm sharing it with you guys, because when we get into the details of this, you're going to be enraged, probably, unfortunately, but you probably are going to be enraged, and you should be. But if this doesn't really show how the system doesn't protect women and how it favors men, abusive men in particular, I don't know what does. And I'm going to always share these stories because I'm so tired of men pushing this bullshit false narrative, pushing this false narrative that women are favored in court, when that is the opposite of the truth, when that is anything but the case. I got to do it. I got to keep sharing it because it's dangerous for women. It's dangerous for children for this to be such a common occurrence. Such a common occurrence. But first, let's get into this story.
A custody exchange turned into a double unaliving here in my town a couple days ago. A 5-year-old boy had to watch his father unalive his mother and grandmother. Out of respect for the family, I'm not going to say any names or anything. I don't know how much attention they want, and this just happened. But the mother in this situation had a documented history of abuse by her ex-husband. Just a couple years ago, she shot him in self-defense. The judge even agreed it was justified. He survived. But despite all of that, the court still allowed custody exchanges to happen. And in one of those handoffs a couple days ago in a very public parking lot, the child's mother and grandmother were unalived by his father right in front of him. Under the law in my state, judges can order supervised visitation, safe exchange centers. They can ban overnight visits, but those protections weren't used here. And as a result, a little boy witnessed something so violent, and he is now basically an orphan. It changed the entire trajectory of his life. The fact that a man capable of unaliving with a documented history of violent abuse and DV was allowed to even have his child is horrific. I mean, the mother knew these tendencies in him. How terrified do you think she was every time she had to hand her child off to this man? I don't know the custody details in this case. I mean, this happened at 6 p.m., so I assume the child was being handed off for an overnight stay. I just want to know who the judge was who signed off on this whole arrangement. I did a tiny bit of research on this. I really don't know what I'm talking about, but it sounds like the courts prioritize maintaining parental ties unless a clear, immediate danger is shown. I feel like a lot of times DV is minimized as marital conflict and not seen as direct risk to children as much, but it really is. I mean, and there's degrees to everything. Witnessing emotional abuse affects kids, and then what this poor kid saw in the parking lot with his parents is the most extreme. I mean, it just shouldn't have come to that. It's wild to me that outcomes like this just depend on the judge a lot of times. Look at the Emmanuel situation. The fact that that father was allowed to be in a room with a child is insane. So as part of the Violence Against Women Act reauthorized in 2022 is Caden's Law. Caden's Law incentivizes states to adopt child safety standards in custody cases, including prioritizing documented abuse evidence in custody decisions. My state has not enacted any version of Caden's Law at this point, as far as I'm aware. I know you'll correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know, you guys, that's my rant. I feel helpless in this whole thing. What can we even do? Also, there is a GoFundMe to help with funeral expenses and just to help support the little boy. If you're interested, send me a message and I will send you the link to that.
Okay, so that was the story in a nutshell. She didn't mention the woman's name in there. I guess it had happened whatever, but the news the local news around there put the whole story out. So I don't know, you know what I'm saying? As far as like her protecting the identity of the woman, I don't know what that was going to do, but I just wanted to share you that because what she said was spot on. And that's what we're going to talk about further. But let's get into the story a little bit more so we can know exactly what happened.
Many people in and outside of our community are feeling this loss. Many saying they wish it didn't come to this and that they already missed them. A memorial placed in their honor after Melissa Domingo and her mother Elizabeth Domingo were shot and killed Sunday evening. Notes on the memorial say, "Forever in our hearts, you will forever be missed. I love you. Fly high, Mom." And ever since the incident, social media has been flooded with posts, some wondering why and how this could happen, others showing support even outside of Augusta, but mainly remembering the victims. Online, family, friends, and co-workers describe Melissa as a devoted mother, daughter, and sister. Describe her mother Elizabeth as someone that was gentle, loving, and devoted to her church. In a statement sent to us from Bel Air Dental Associates, where Melissa worked, they said, "Our entire dental family is devastated by this loss. Our hearts go out to their loved ones during this unimaginably difficult time." On Facebook, they also said the loss has tremendously affected their team and their office will be temporarily closed, allowing them and others who were close to Melissa and Elizabeth to mourn this unexpected loss. But it's not just people who are close to them that are showing support.
Melissa Domingo was her name, and her mother. That was pretty much the story of what happened. But there's actually a little bit more to this story, a lot more, but some crazy stuff. But I just wanted to address all of this happened because the judge allowed the father to still see the children, pretty much. And that's unacceptable, like completely unacceptable. And she already had to shoot that man because, to protect herself. And the judge, a different judge, obviously, but a judge said that, okay, yeah, that like she was just protecting herself. You know what I'm saying? To me, if a woman has to shoot a man to protect herself, I think you should lock the man up. If you're going to let the woman free, somebody has to pay for that. You see what I'm saying? Like, listen to what I'm saying. If you believe that the woman is suffering from being battered, then that means that you believe she was battered by the man. So why wouldn't you imprison the man? You know what I mean? Like he should have to pay for what happened to him, if that makes sense. So he should have been locked up. That law needs to change. If a woman or whatever, a victim retaliates against their abuser, and the court says, okay, we're going to let the victim go free because they have proven that they were abused by this person, then why not lock the person up at that point? You have proven that the person is abusive. You prove that they abuse them. Lock them up. Like, that's crazy. And this fool is like, this dude is crazy, sick. Fuck all of that. That's what he is. He's sick. This was crazy.
Breaking tonight, a newly released 911 call sheds new light on a double murder that happened Sunday in the parking lot of Best Buy. Authorities say it happened during a custody exchange, and the suspect, 41-year-old Hajir Telezibde, is accused of shooting his ex-wife, 41-year-old Melissa Domingo, and her mom, 79-year-old Elizabeth Domingo. Tonight, your Meredith Anderson has a 911 call made moments after the shooting. She's live in studio now, Meredith.
And the person who made that call might surprise you. It surprised me. When I pressed play, I thought it might have come from a witness, someone driving by the busy area. Instead, the person who called is the person deputies say pulled the trigger.
911, what's the exact location of your emergency?
Best Buy parking lot.
The call only lasts about a minute and a half.
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
Please send ambulance.
But it appears to come from the suspect in the double murder. He admits he shot his ex-wife.
Yes, sir. Tell me exactly what happened.
I was in fear of my life. I fired one round.
But he tells dispatch she fired first. Now keep in mind, this does not match the narrative from Richmond County deputies.
Please send ambulance. And
Okay, sir. Has anyone been shot?
Yes.
Okay.
My ex-wife opened fire.
Okay, but has anyone been shot?
Yeah. I only fired back once. Her mom tried to stop her. I just ducked. So please help us.
Now, something else to keep in mind, deputies had enough probable cause to arrest him for murder, and that could have been difficult had someone fired at him first. And I do also have to point out, I was standing here, same spot on Monday, playing parts of another 911 call. This one from Melissa, New Year's Eve, 2021. She called for help after she shot her then husband, claiming self-defense. He obviously survived. Just last month, a judge ruled she was justified.
Exactly. So obviously this was retaliation of some sort, but he just abusive. He might have done this no matter what. But he was trying to use the fact that she had already shot him to be like, oh, she's violent. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I was just defending myself. But then how did the mother get shot then? Is a magic bullet? Like it ricocheted off of her and went into the mama, like ricocheted off of Melissa and went into Elizabeth, the mother? No, right? So the police, thank goodness, they arrested him. He's in jail right now. And hopefully he doesn't get out on bond because he's a threat. And I don't want him to be around his baby at all. Because at this point, they might let him see his kid. Like, it's crazy. But so let's get into how this happened. Like, how did we get here, right? We got here because of the failings of the justice system. Period, point blank. Whatever judge, whatever, whoever allowed this man to keep contact with this woman and their child, they dropped the ball. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is rare, but this is what should have happened.
I just watched a video talking about the statistics of how many children end up with an abusive parent in custody cases, and it made me realize that my custody case really was an absolute anomaly. I consulted with at least 10 different attorneys over the course of a year, explaining my situation to them of domestic violence and child abuse, and I was repeatedly told that child abuse was nearly impossible to prove in court, and I was better off mediating with him than I was taking him to litigation. Eventually, I found a lawyer that was willing to take on my case and was actually confident in the fact that I had a case in the first place. And so when we filed for the domestic violence protection order, I had actually filed the protection order just for myself. I did not request that the children be included on the protection order, but once I submitted it to the court actually returned it to me with the children included and said he's not allowed to have contact with me or either of the children, and the children were in my sole custody. This was going from like a 50-50 custody arrangement. When I originally filed for the modification of our parenting plan, I did not file for full custody. I had submitted my initial modification that they go to his house every other weekend instead of the 50-50 arrangement that we had, and they're with me the remainder of the time. Over the course of the court case, as they did investigation and more evidence came to light and things like that, it had actually changed from being the request of every other weekend to a request where they only have supervised visits for a set amount of time, and there were stipulations. And then ultimately, by the end of the custody case, it had changed so drastically to where I have 100% full custody. He has no contact with the children. He is not to have any contact with the children unless he follows a very specific set of guidelines. And if he does that, then he gets supervised visitation with them. And even with getting supervised visitation, he has to go back to court and he would have to request a modification to the parenting plan, which I can object to if he were to ever want any more custody of them other than supervised visitation, which is only 2 hours every other week.
That is how it should be done. That is what should have happened in this case. Had that happened, Melissa and her mother Elizabeth would still be here. If this had happened, if the court would have protected those children and done what was best for the child and the mother, the two women involved would still be here today. They would still be here today. That 5-year-old would have his parents, have his mother at least, and his grandmother to take care of him, and they would be safe from that man. But it doesn't happen that often, unfortunately. Unfortunately, this is more the reality.
As I just said, statistically, children are more likely to be placed in the custody of an abusive parent. Children are more likely to be placed with their fathers. It is actually very uncommon for courts to remove custody 100% from a father. 72% of abusive fathers who seek custody are awarded custody. The statistics are heavily in the favor of abusive fathers. This is why so many women will not seek custody arrangements with their abuser or stay in abusive relationships, because the statistics are extremely in the father's favor. If a father seeks custody, he is more likely to be granted custody than to have the children removed from his care. The reason why children are fatherless is because fathers choose to abuse their children or they choose to abandon their children. The reason why my children's father is not in their life is not the court's fault. It's his fault for 1, abusing them, for 2, abusing me, and for 3, abandoning them. It is nobody's fault but his own.
It's nobody's fault but the man's at the end of the day. Even though the courts have power and they can protect people, but it's nobody's fault but the man's fault, but the abuser's fault. So I'm tired of hearing that, because she mentioned something in there that thank God she talked about that, but how women will oftentimes stay in abusive relationships with men and, to protect the kids, right? Because they know that there's no refuge for them. They know if they leave, and they like the courts are going to protect them, right? So they end up staying in the abusive relationship. That's like the thing that's so annoying about that and so disturbing is how often men will blame women and talk about, and basically what they'll use is the fact that women are in relationships with abusive men to prove that women are, it's the woman's fault. They're trying to blame the woman, like on the like choose better situation, when the woman literally is making the best choice that she feels like in that moment, which is to stay, because she knows if she leaves, or she strongly believes if she leaves, the situation is going to get worse, because everybody knows, those of us that know, if you know, the most dangerous time for a woman is when she is trying to leave a relationship, especially when she's with an abusive man. And then secondly, you have the men that use the fact that women are with men to prove that men aren't actually abusive. And I'm like, what? That's stupid, because this is most likely the scenario that she's with this man to stave off further damage or more damage or whatever the case may be. That's really all it is at the end of the day for the woman. So the court system needs to step up. The court system needs to protect women and children much, much more. And men need to step up and play their part by not getting on the internet at the very least and lying about the things that women are doing, and about the court system favoring women, and how women are trying to keep children away from their dads and alienating fathers and all of that dumb stuff, when that is anything but the truth. Tell the truth. The reality is, it is the fault of the man that the child, that the man isn't with the child. It is the fault of the man that the woman is no longer with the man. It is not the fault of the court, and definitely ain't the fault of the woman. If the woman chooses to keep herself safe, that is not her fault that the family broke up. She didn't want to make herself a single mother. Like, that's not the reality. Women are simply fighting, scrapping for their lives to survive and to protect their children. And to have men turn around and blame them for that is unacceptable. It's dangerous, disingenuous, and unacceptable. It cannot happen. It can't happen. But before I end this, I just wanted to give my condolences again to Melissa and Elizabeth Domingo. They didn't deserve that. Hopefully, they get justice, 100% justice, and that child is protected. Their son is protected.